U.S. manufacturing technology orders were up 2% in November, but it's not a trend, and we're going to share with you why. Good morning. I'm Pat McGibbon. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Analytics at AMT, and I'm here to talk about USMT orders for November. At first glance, a 2% increase over October sounds really, really great. But when you go into the numbers a little deeper, you'll see that the average value went up 22%. And so what does that mean? That meant the unit volumes went down by about 15 to 16%. That's not great news. That means that our overall units are down. So why was the average value up? Because people were buying into more productivity and automation add-ons to the equipment they were buying, trying to make themselves more price competitive with the overseas competition they're seeing both in the export markets and here domestically. But it's still a good point in that we're seeing the activity that is happening staying on the path that we were projecting for the last 5-6 months. We're going to have a really tough end of the year. December dollar volumes might be up a little bit, but you'll probably see units be in about the same place they were for October and November on average. And you'll probably see that same trend occur well into the first half of 2016. But let's talk about some of the things that are a little bit more specific. For example, regionally, Northeast is doing very well. Year to date, while the rest of the country is down about 17%, New England is up 3% in dollar volumes. That's great news. And it's not just because of dollar volumes, their units volumes are up as well. A lot of activity there. You've got aerospace, you've got computer and electronics, you've got appliances, and you've also got the job shop industry that serves primarily aerospace and the gun industry. Those have all been booming businesses in the last half of 2015 and help pull them from a negative number at the first half of 15 into a positive state as we close out, get close to closing out 2015. Second, fastest growing has been the Southeast, and that's primarily because of, again, you see some really big numbers going into the Southeast over the course of the last 3 months. Volvo announced a $1 billion project going into South Carolina. Beginning of 2015, Boeing put another $1 billion into their facilities there in Charleston. You have several of the major auto parts manufacturers from Korea, Japan, and Germany putting facilities into Georgia and Alabama to supply that 400-mile circle of automotive plants that have come into there in the last 10 to 15 years. It's really becoming the new Detroit of the United States. What else have we seen as far as industries? Computer and electronics have really seen a significant increase in the amount of activity that they've put into the order bookings. Why? Well, it's a very price-conscious market, and they are one of those ones leading that productivity and automation enhancements with the add-ons to the equipment they are buying. You're also seeing a significant pickup in medical equipment in the areas of Minnesota. And then when you talk about the other industries we're keeping an eye on, HVAC and appliances. The housing starts that started growing in the latter part of the summer and through the entire fall are now paying off in capacity constraints in the metal products that go into the house. The air conditioning and heating systems, the appliances, garage doors, etc. And it's one of the reasons why you're seeing the automobile industry still looking at a pretty significant number for 2017 as far as units, because there's going to be at least one car in every one of those driveways in those new homes. So those are the positive things and the strengths that we see across the country. But let's talk about some of the market issues that we're going to be facing as we go into 2016 and help explain why we think the first half of the new year is going to be a little bit soft for you, people who sell manufacturing technology. First, there's China. All the newspaper articles you've seen probably over the last 2 or 3 weeks have been dour, talking about the downtrodden manufacturing sector in China. Let's get real. U.S. is the largest manufacturer in the world still. Second, still by a large margin, is China. So even a smaller China is still a big market. They still represent 40 to 50% of all the machines bought in the world. Their manufacturing sector is growing much slower, and it's at a rate that really can't help accelerate the economy, but it's still growing. And that's improving. I mean, all the signs we hear from our people in China, in Beijing and Shanghai, suggest that there should be some significant improvement in that market over the course of 2016 as well. Looking at the second tier, and if you were at the forecasting conference in October, you heard our primary director of the Asian Affairs, Xinbin Li, talk about how the secondary tier of the market, the plants and manufacturing facilities that are 100 miles offshore, back into the internal part of the country, are starting to blossom. And that's going to be a big opportunity going forward in 2016 and 17. So something to keep an eye on. Also, a survey that we did a couple years ago, asking our members, what are the most critical issues facing them over the course of their manufacturing and business strategy planning? And the number one issue was labor, skilled labor. Just could not find it. And certainly AMT is working the best we can to deal with those issues. The second most important issue in that survey was that our members wanted stability. An environment in which they could make plans for the future and guarantee that these issues were going to be addressed. Things like export controls, the tax issues, the tax benefits, what we call the tax extenders. Getting stability there would help them put together a plan that they could live to for more than 6 months. That they could guarantee a customer that this is what the end result at the end of the year would be with respect to their tax position. Because we haven't had that for almost 5 years, any semblance of it. Well, beginning in October, we had Congress pass a budget for 2 years. This is the first time in 6 years that they've done that. So government programs from Defense Department, Department of Energy, that develops customers for our manufacturing technology products, they know what the schedule is going to be over the course of the next 2 years. They know that they can make plans to buy and put in place production equipment to support the programs that they're sponsoring or working on, and it's going to be a positive thing for our members and people who produce manufacturing technology as well. In the beginning of December, they took a look at the tax issues and a bipartisan Congress. And that's a big deal in a divisive group we've had for the last 5 years, maybe even longer, 8 years. They were able to put together a tax bill that makes bonus depreciation extended for 5 years. For 5 years, you know what the tax issues around that particular benefit is going to be. And then turned around and made Section 179 and the R&D tax credit permanent. This gives you the ability to use these things as a sales tool going forward. 2014, 15, you didn't know whether they were going to be passed or not. You really couldn't make any kind of a promise or hedge your pricing on a product because of that, because those things weren't addressed until December and then made retroactive. Now you know going forward permanently that Section 179 and the R&D tax credit are going to be able to be figured into a person's tax basis. And what's even better is that the Section 179, they've raised the limits from where they were in 2014 to a level that back similar to what we used to have in the beginning of this decade. And that's great. You're going to have an opportunity to use it as a sales tool for as far as forward as we can see. I would say that you should go to the website. AMT's website has a one-pager on all these benefits. Take down the information, put it back into your sales tools, make your salespeople a lot more effective, and help and explain the benefits to your customer base. Federal Reserve, at the end, towards the end, middle to the end of the year, a month for the end of the year, raised the interest rate for the first time in 9 years. At first glance, that sounds really, really bad. In fact, Ford put out an example of what its impact on a car loan will be. It'll increase the cost of a car loan by $1,000 over the average 4-year loan that people take out on their cars. That's basically $250 a year. So that will slow down some things. That'll take some money out of consumers' pockets. But I think it's going to also have the impact of pushing people to make decisions on large capital expenses that they're going to put interest payments on sooner rather than later. Because this small increase we see now is likely to turn into additional increases during the course of 2016. And every increase the Fed makes is going to have a 2 to 3 times fold impact on what the interest points you'll be paying. So this quarter point that was put out in December probably will have about a one percentage point increase in interest rates down the road. it's not really a positive thing when you take money out of the consumer's pocket or when you make buying capital equipment more expensive. But at today's rates, let's be honest, it's not that big a deal. Anyone who lived through the 80s, 90s, and the first part of this century understand that 3 and 4% is not a bad number. We just got to plan to it and expect it to have an impact on increasing their desire to move their capital expenditures forward. And it's one of the reasons why we think that the projections we were making about orders in manufacturing technology beginning to pick up in the summer or late part of summer, it may well be early part of summer, late May, early June, that we begin to see all these come to fruition, other issues around the world settle, and manufacturing technology orders begin to pick up again. Again, as I said before, Peter Ullman, our Vice President of Exhibitions, is one of the luckiest guys in the world. It looks like we're going to turn the corner and start back up the ladder on manufacturing technology orders before we get to IMTS in September of 2016. With that, let's close this month's report, and I'll see you next month to talk about the year-end numbers in December.